Welcome to Mindflow Radio.
We are creating conscious community by sharing mindful manifesting skills and transcendental music.
We are all in this together.
Okay, here we go. Thank you.
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 Thank you. Mindflow Radio.
Mindflow Radio.
She's Jaylyn,
And he is Monte.
and here we are.
Here we are.
Another beautiful month.
Yeah. May is the best.
May the 4th be with you.
That's his birthday, everybody.
Oh my gosh, it is my birthday.
Yeah.
That's about all we're going to say about that.
Yeah. This is going to air after your birthday. So
Yeah,
just right after your birthday.
right. Good. Well, I'm happy to have made it through another year, another miracle.
Yeah.
Really. When you get to my age, every year is kind of like a gift, I figure.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it matters how old you are. Life is, that's what they say. Life is a gift. And one of those things you say is life is a dream.
Well, yeah, it is a dream and a miracle. I mean, when I look back at my life in particular, it seems like since I know most of the details of my life, it's amazing I'm still alive. And to me, that's like proof of like a higher power.
That's awesome.
Kind of like, yeah, right.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I definitely took lots of risks.
At least in my mind, that's kind of like, maybe not proof, but it sort of strongly indicates to me that there is some other force out there.
Yeah.
But so here we are.
Yeah. So
What's on your mind?
what's on my mind?
Oh,
I have no idea.
hold on to your hats, people.
Yeah, nobody wants to know what's on my mind. But you were talking about wanting to discuss, I think it's a Stoic thing. Challenges are opportunities.
Yeah, that's an interesting philosophy. It can be a very empowering philosophy, I believe. And just, I've really been trying to take that on in my own life. And I've noticed, like in the past, well, first of all, challenges are something that each of us deals with. I don't care who you are, who we are, how much money you have.
How much trauma you've had.
Yeah. All of us face challenges in our lives.
Yeah.
All of us. And a challenge is just something that's not going the way you wanted to, perhaps, or there can be a vast, wide array of challenges that come at us.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one of the keys really in being a successful human is figuring out how we deal with these challenges, how we react when a challenge occurs. And for myself, and I can only speak for myself, when a challenge occurs, I certainly want to face that challenge with a clear mind. I want to face it from a balanced perspective, balanced emotional perspective. I want to not go into the victim stancing mentality, which is disabling, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go into any challenge just as effectively as possible. And so from that perspective, challenges can really be opportunities for growth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and ideally, as we overcome various challenges, new challenges emerge. Either that, or we can just have the same challenge over and over and over again that just like, we never get over it, you know, and the next lifetime, you know.
Yeah.
At least that's the way I see it. But that's a Stoic philosophy, is viewing challenges as opportunities. And it kind of flips the energy of it. In other words, let's say I'm going to work and a challenge occurs. Instead of me going into, not this again, oh no, you know.
That's the way I play.
I'm like tumbling down the well hole, you know, I'm falling in space.
Down,
yeah, right.
Spiraling down.
Instead of that, if I can see it and be like, oh, this is a challenge. Okay, let's utilize my training, go into the deeper breath, you know, try and stay in gratitude, try and stay in clarity, non-judgmental awareness, you know, and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's no guarantees that everything's going to be okay when challenges occur, but I think I vastly increase the chances that things will be okay if I can stay grounded as much as possible and not spin off into poor me land, which has been my habit in the past.
It's definitely my habit.
Not always. It is not.
I don't know. April was a doozy for me. Like just a straight up doozy. I know that we talked about in April, we talked about depression and getting over depression, but April just continued to be really hard after that recording. And it wasn't until just a few days ago where I started to come back to myself. And Monte was a huge asset for me, and also just so kind and compassionate, even though I was clearly struggling intensely. And yeah, we just got back from a kirtan with our friends in the Mount Horeb area, Madison area. Yeah. Oh, shouts out to all those beautiful people. Yeah. They just know how to love each other, and it's just such a beautiful experience.
It's interesting. That's the foundation of these gatherings, is love and respect for each other.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there, and it was, you know, working on my own personal evolution, and I was just trying to see like the spark of God within everybody. So I was visualizing it. You know, I'd go from one person to the next, and I could just see it.
Yeah.
And it seemed like, you know, I was imagining like different color souls.
Oh, neat. That's
it was really cool.
Yeah. I had told Monte, because there's, you know, things going on in our life that we need to attend to, but I said, I really want to go. Will you come with me? And he said, sure. And it was just so lovely. Shouts out to all the Supersonic Soul Circle and all of the lovely people who participated in the kirtan. If you're listening to this, that was just so lovely. And you know, I told Monte and many people at the kirtan is, I need this for my mental health. I need...
Yeah.
And I wasn't able to go the month before, scheduling or whatever. I can't remember. But I realized in that experience how chanting is what has gotten me through so much. And that's what the show began with is chanting. And that was the whole point of it back in the day. I met up with Jim Hallberg and I was like, hey, I love kirtan. Do you mind if we do a live show?
Yeah.
Or live recorded. And he said, absolutely, I love kirtan too. So this started almost 8 years ago. Well, I guess it'd be 7.5. It'll be 8 years in August.
Yeah. That's when we first started hanging out.
Yeah, we were playing music in 2015. And so it's like, wow, the last 8 years have been pretty okay, know?
Yeah.
But during this depression, one day, Monte asked me, when's the last time you felt like this for this long? And I realized that it was actually, I'm diagnosed with, what's the word, severe depression, I think, or something along the lines of really bad depression, depressive disorder. And, I figured out my life, got it together kind of, and met Monty, and everything's been okay. But I had a bunch of changes happen in my life, and he would say, is it challenge is an opportunity? And I'd just be bubbling and with rage and upsetness and just like, no, that doesn't work. Please don't say that. And it was just, I did all the tools, guys. I did all the tools every day. I was forcing myself to do qigong and deep breathing and meditation,
nice
and it was hard, and yoga and chanting. I was doing Tara Chakra and Loka Samasta, and I was just trying. I did not want this to be my new life, because actually the last 5 years of my last life were like that. Yeah. And just on and off throughout the week, severe depression, suicidal ideation, and it is not a fun place to be, but I know it well. So if anyone has that experience, I can tell you that you can make it through it. Yeah. And there is another side. There's an end to the tunnel.
Yeah.
And in a way, challenges are opportunities, but sometimes it's not easy to even accept those words. So if you're in that, let it be known that it's okay if you just want to smack us for saying it,
Yeah, right. I mean, and just lots of credit to you for getting out of that.
Yeah.
I mean, because it was your work that helped you to shift your vibration. Literally,
that's
shift
true,
your vibration.
But I also feel that your creation of a safe environment really made it possible, because when I was in this before, there was 5 years. I was already a yoga teacher. I was already teaching yoga every week. I was already meditating and doing yoga every day. And I was suffering so hard. There was not kindness. There was not understanding. There was not a safe space for me to try to go through this tunnel. And so, it took about a month. But I feel like I'm back. I'm a little leery to even say that, but
I think so.
I feel like I'm back.
I think so. I feel like you're back.
Yeah.
I mean, and it is a vibration thing.
Yeah.
I mean, according to Hermetics, there's two basic states of the human mind. Mm-hmm. And there's an elevated state and a lower state. And the lower state is where there's lots of depression, anxiety, rage, guilt, all the negative. In the elevated stage is when you're feeling inspired, content.
Well, I also feel like, so I just want to send a shout out to Erin Acklin, and Rebecca Rate and Casey Grisham for helping me through this process. But one thing that I found out in my own work with Qigong and learning about Chinese medicine, meridians, energy of the body, is that in some ways, because all these organs are related to meridians, right? And there's the out of balance or stagnant, and then there's the in flow and in balance. And it's kind of like what you're saying with these elevated and lower states of consciousness, because apparently, like my stomach meridian, my spleen meridian are very out of whack. And I'm doing a lot of stuff to balance them back out. But it's interesting because it's like the lower, the stagnant or out of balance is worry, obsession, anxiety, fear, like the inability to digest what's happening, inability to integrate. And then, of course, the balanced would be grateful, lighthearted, relaxed, trusting.
Yeah.
You know, so it's interesting that what you're saying about the elevated and the lower states of consciousness really kind of relate to the energy of the body and how it's flowing and if it's flowing or, you know, I don't know.
No, that
little
is
observation.
Interesting. No, and yeah, you are great at Qigong. I just want to say. So, I mean, that has totally helped you.
Yeah, I agree.
Through a lot of this, and however it works, you know. I mean, it's great for the body. It's great for the mind. You know, that's how we can. Well, according to Hermetics, if you can go from that lower mind state to the elevated mind state, it's called transmutation. I mean, and according to Hermetics, we kind of go back and forth, you know, pretty regularly. Like I spend a lot of time in that lower state, but I'll notice it and I'll do some practices to hopefully get into the elevated state. And, but so we all go back and forth, but when somebody's really stuck in that lower state, it's hard to function.
Yeah.
And
it's really
what I've noticed too, when I'm stuck in the lower state, I start creating like bad, like energetic karma with other people. And it's just kind of like I'm hurting my own karma. And then I'm like it's easier to get stuck down there. But I don't know, give yourself a lot of credit because you trained and you got out of it. And I mean, and you're fortunate to be surrounded by, you know, a nurturing environment, including the tribe, you know, the tribe in Madison, the tribe in Viroqua. It's like we have some really amazing people in our lives. I'm so grateful.
Yeah, I agree. People are really important, which is why the previous
time.
Well,
it can be. I mean, some people
so
can heal, can go to a cave and heal too.
Not me.
Not you. No. But some people, you know, we're all different that way.
Yeah, maybe. I really feel like we're social creatures and we're tribal creatures. And
some of us. Some people are meant to be monks or...
Yeah, but even monks are together with
not
monks.
Always.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my theory.
Yeah. Not knowing is a good perspective.
Yeah. I from my own experience and knowing the frustration of not getting immediate results, that the most important part of healing, especially from PTSD, anxiety, and depression, is to continue to try. And though giving up is just way easier sounding, but at the same time, that giving up, failing, is just so hopeless and so painful.
Yeah, and you know, from a mind perspective, when you give up, you're saying, okay, old, unproductive habits of thinking, just keep going. Because that's the thing, our habits, our habitual thinking patterns, they just go on their own until we interrupt them. You know, that's why it's so important that we watch our thoughts, you know, and use that metacognition, that cognition of cognition, being the mindful witness to the chatter in my mind. it's so, I mean, that essentially is mindfulness, and that is one of the keys to getting out of it. Because it's these old thinking patterns that can keep us stuck. I mean, and it seems like victim stancing is really promoted in our culture.
Yeah.
Just even from the perspective of, I don't know. I mean,
well, we're definitely not encouraged to work together. I mean, even if you look at the nuclear family, am I saying that right?
Sure.
We used to live in tribes and more village oriented. You knew all your neighbors, and now there's just too many people, too many churches, too many. Maybe too many is not the right word, but there's just so much more that it would be really difficult to know all your neighbors. It'd be really difficult to know everyone in your town. Our towns there's so few towns where you can actually do that.
Well, and we're far more isolated than we used to be.
Right.
Essentially, we used to live in tribes, and hopefully we'll get back into a tribe. I mean, we have our tribe, but as far as like living situations, where we grow our own food and work
I know
together.
It's such a beautiful vision, but I'm the kind of, I guess, pessimist that sees that vision has been tried so many times recently.
But the timing's got to be right, and the people have to be right.
And,
so just a shout
and the
out,
education.
Just a shout out to anybody out there who's into this. Just get a hold of me. I've been meaning to talk to you, Madison folks, about this.
Yeah,
because we're looking for tribe and land and growing our own food and creating our own electricity and perhaps mining our own cryptocurrencies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But working together, essentially. And even if we don't achieve that, we are still working together.
So the point I was trying to make is that there's a lack of education. There's a lack of life skills training on how to work together on these villages and tribes. And I think that's why so many communities have failed, because they're just doing their best to reinvent the wheel, because there's no directions and we're so egotistical, or what's the word? Self-focused, that it's really hard to compromise. Yeah. And it's, if anyone's an overachiever, they can really take over. And so that whole subject is just so sensitive and difficult, and
it's probably part of the evolution of humankind.
Yeah, so it's probably
it'll happen eventually. I'm fairly convinced, and the only question is whether it's going to happen in my lifetime or not. But either way, I'm cool with it.
Yeah,
but I still want to keep trying.
That's good. You're really good at keeping trying.
Well, that's because, as I was saying before, we've kind of been trained to feel like we're victims,
right?
And I could take that perspective. Oh, I'm being victimized, by the culture I live in, and we're being really bad to the environment, and I'm a victim of that, and everything's gonna be ruined soon, and everything's going to be dead, and the earth's going to be dead. And so obviously if I really focus on that, I'm being victimized. But I would rather take the perspective of, no, I'm going to be an agent of change. No, I'm going to be somebody who works on improving the system we live in, who helps people improve their mindset, who helps people improve their health, who helps the earth be more healthy. Mm-hmm. I mean, we can do it. We have the tools. Mm-hmm. We have the know-how. We just need to get together and do this stuff. But if we're all walking around, if most of us are walking around feeling like victims, and nothing gets accomplished.
I don't even think that you have to just feel like a victim. I think you could just simply feel like you don't know how to do the things that you want to do.
Well, right. But that's part of it.
I don't think victim is the right word for that.
Well, I think I'm just pointing out that I think there's a real vibe out there that's promoted by the media.
That's true.
that is the message is you are a victim.
Yeah.
And
Well, yeah, I'm
and
not going there.
you should be full of hatred.
Yeah.
That's kind of the messaging, I believe, and I just don't buy it. I mean, sure.
Well, yeah, if you unplug from the media, then you're not a victim of the media.
Well,
so there's that.
Well, yeah, that's true. The media can victimize our minds for sure by just like putting us in that lower mind state, putting us into fear. It puts me into fear if I pay too much attention to the media.
Yeah.
I go into fear, I go into confusion, I go into helplessness, the learned helplessness.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you were talking about just now, just not knowing what to do. You know, what can I do? Well, there's nothing I can do. I'm helpless. We're doomed. It's like, no, not necessarily.
Yeah.
You know, we can change. We can evolve. Now's the time, in fact, to evolve. And most importantly, the evolution starts in our own minds.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I'm not able to evolve my own mind, no, my life's not going to evolve.
Right. I absolutely agree with that.
As I evolve my mind, I become more effective. It helps my family. It helps my tribe. It helps my culture, and it helps all of humanity. So boom, I go from the place of disempowerment. I guess that's a better word than victim stancing. Just feeling, I would rather feel empowered than disempowered. Because feeling disempowered, psychologically speaking, is it leads to depression and anxiety. But if I'm feeling empowered, I have less depression, less anxiety, more.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, and I'm more effective. So I choose to, as much as possible, be in that place of mental empowerment. You know, and it seems to work well for me. I mean, people talk about, you know, what do you want to manifest?
What do you want to manifest?
Me? I just want to be content. That's all I want to manifest. And I got to do all this stuff to be content, but I have to try.
Yeah, neutrality, presence. Those things are seriously priceless.
Yeah.
Seriously priceless.
Oh, for sure. Contentment is just like this severely underrated state of consciousness.
Well, you know, they did studies. I can't remember the name of the book, but it was a study on marketing, and contentment does not get remembered.
Well, no,
you can't
it's
make
not
someone
exciting.
feel content and then have them buy something.
It's not exciting. And they'll try and sell you some crummy like breakfast cereal by making it sound like it's exciting and fun.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like, no, or they'll sell you this. Well, yeah. But contentment is an underrated state of consciousness that is there for us if we're willing to take it.
Yeah.
You know, and we have to train. Essentially, what you were talking about, how you got out of that difficult space you were in for a few weeks, you know, it's through your training and through.
Yeah, I wanted to give up, but you kept on encouraging me. And there was a little voice in my head that said, "You've gotten through worse. You can do this."
Yeah, and you've got too much to offer the world to give up at this point. You know, you've gone through too much. Now is the time when you're like blossoming. I can see it.
Yeah,
I witnessed it yesterday at that kirtan.
Oh, that was so fun. So much fun.
Talk about raising the vibration. I just really felt like I took like that step towards enlightenment, you know, and that's all we can do is take steps towards awakening.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe we'll get there someday.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be next lifetime. I don't know.
Yeah. So I want to introduce this next chant that we're going to do. And it's about going from darkness to light. And I think that's a pretty good transition here. And then afterwards, we'll talk more about skills for contentment and giving hope and
mind training.
Yeah. So we'll see you back here, or, you know, we'll be back talking again in a moment, and please enjoy. I'll go ahead and tell you the words. Om Asatoma Sat Gamaya Tamasoma Joitir Gamaya Mrichorma Amritam Gamaya. Lead us from darkness to light. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from life. Lead us from death to eternal life. So this is really a song of transmutation, or a chant. It's a chant of transmutation.
Yeah.
And we'll go ahead and do it for you now. Enjoy. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyoti Gamaya Mrityoma Amritam Gamaya. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyoti Gamaya Mrityoma Amritam Gamaya. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyoti Gamaya Mrityoma Amritam Gamaya. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyoti Gamaya Mrityoma Amritam Gamaya. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyoti Gamaya Mrityoma Amritam Gamaya. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyoti Gamaya Mrityoma Amritam Gamaya. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyoti Gamaya Mrityoma Amritam Gamaya. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyoti Gamaya Mrityoma Amritam Gamaya. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyoti Gamaya Mrityoma Amritam Gamaya. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyoti Gamaya Mrityoma Amritam Gamaya. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma joyte kamaya mrichormaham vitam kamaya Om Asatoma sat kamaya Tamasoma joyte kamaya mrichormaham vitam kamaya
All right, great job.
Thank you.
I just want to say, I mean, that's the first time you've done that chant that way.
Yeah.
You know,
I really wanted to do it and I couldn't remember how I used to do it.
And this is the new improved version. But this is an example of how the challenges of the past week it provided this opportunity for you to come up with this new version of this song that's like super beautiful.
Thank you.
I mean, it's like a small example, but it's worth noting.
Yeah,
it's worth
that chant
noting.
is
really
beautiful. There's some really powerful, beautiful chants out there.
Well, nice job. It was
Thank
beautiful. I look forward to hearing that more. Because it was really transcendental, actually.
Yeah, I remember back when I learned this one, and a shout out to a dear friend Kumari for teaching it to me a long time ago. And well, she turned me on to it. She taught it a different way, but I just loved it. And that was during a hard time in my life too. And I would just sing it over and over and over, just like I did the Christian song when I was a kid. You know, it seems like I've had and you know, I know I'm not alone. I know this is normal somewhat to feel like you're lost in the woods and you have very few tools to get through, and you don't know what's going to attack you, what it's going to feel like, how you're going to react. And you just got to keep walking. Hope you find your way out. That's pretty much been my life. So any real spiritual songs that that can speak to the earth experience and reaching to the divine to help that transmutation.
All right. Well, that helped me transmute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, so we were talking about going over some mindfulness skills.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I know this last week has been tough on you, and for a while you were stuck, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree with that?
Oh, yes.
Your mind was kind of stuck in a certain place. And the reason I knew it would be okay is because I knew that you were just like basically stuck in an old like pattern of thinking. Mm-hmm. Essentially, old thinking patterns were just emerging, and I knew just working through it. I was thinking, well, what do I do when I get stuck in old thinking patterns that hold me back? Mm-hmm. And that happens to me all the time. I mean, it's so natural that, if something difficult happens in my life, that I go back to these old patterns, but the idea is you just don't want to hang on to them for too long. You don't want those patterns to set in so long that they're the norm, right? If they're unproductive patterns of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, well, how do I deal with unproductive patterns of thinking? And for me, it's I work with my breathing.
Mm-hmm.
I work with my posture. I work with mantra, and I work with visualization.
Mm-hmm.
I work with all those things, and I pretty much work with all of them every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And maybe I could just share a few of those.
Sure.
For the listeners. And the simplest technique is the mantra, which is, for me, an effective way to take control of my consciousness. Basically, if my mind is stuck in old unproductive patterns of thinking, it's just stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And like the patterns just run themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to get in there and throw the switches around a little bit. I have to grab the steering wheel and hit the brake pedal, or turn the wheel and hit the gas. Or I have to do something to be, to interrupt these thoughts, because otherwise they're going to get a hold of me. Mm-hmm. And then they're going to turn into the the norm, the status quo. But I've noticed the mantra I use most often, and a lot of people use this mantra that I know, but it's just repeating the phrase "thank you" in my mind, just throughout the day. And what I'm doing when I repeat that phrase, I don't need a great moment to say thank you. I use it during good times, during bad times. Because ideally what it does is I'm directing my mind to seek the positive of the moment. Seek the positive, and it's 100% cognitive practice. So it's just in my head. Mm-hmm. And so I'm noticing, and I've told this story before, but I'm just going to briefly go over it. Again, it's like the dentist story. I was in the dentist chair getting my tooth drilled. I was like, this really sucks. I'm not going to say thank you. I was like, this is a drag. Then I was like, just try it for an experiment. So I started saying thank you. And within 2 seconds, my suffering went from an 8 to a 4 because I was directing my mind to see the positive of the situation.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm able to have this done. I'm so grateful. So it turned my consciousness from like poor me to I'm feeling grateful.
And I also did that at the dentist.
Oh, did you?
Last year, and it worked really well.
Okay.
So I can second that.
Yeah, right. And I mean, I try and use it every morning.
And I also want to say that one of the things that I've been doing in the last few days of not being in hell, when I start to notice that I'm starting to nitpick in my brain and starting to obsess and ruminate and go back, I'll start blessing my food. Like, because it's usually when I'm eating for whatever reason, and I'll be like, I have food anxiety, go figure. But I'll be eating and I'll be like, oh my God, this is happening, and then I'm getting triggered and I don't know what I'm going to do, and my life is just like going down the drain, and and I'll be like, oh, thank you for this food, and bless the animals and the plants that I'm eating, and bless the people who got this to my plate, and then I'll just start blessing and saying thank yous, and then I'm like, okay, I can handle this, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, right.
And I pull out, and that's just in the in this time where I've appeared to look fine. So
well, good job. I mean, that's the power of using thank you. Mm-hmm. I mean, where you're essentially directing your mind to seek the positive instead of, so it's a subtle shift, but in that moment, you're taking charge of the chatter in the mind rather than the old chatter patterns taking control of you.
Yes, but I also have to say that when it was really bad, I was doing thank yous and they weren't helping. So I just shout out again, don't give up.
Yeah,
keep going.
Stay with it.
It does work eventually.
And it might work immediately.
And it might work immediately, but if it doesn't work immediately, it's okay to go, okay, I've done at least 100 today. I'll try again tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I do them during Qigong. When I'm doing Qigong, there's when I'm working on the kidney meridian and when I'm working on the neck, while I'm breathing, I'm in my mind repeating the word thank you as I exhale, as I inhale. Just thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, as much as I can.
Yeah.
And it helps in the moment.
Okay.
Always helps in the moment. But, you know, I'm on my own. I'm like with myself when I'm doing Qigong. I'm in a bubble. Like I literally make a bubble. And that's actually one of the tools I want to share is I've worked with a woman, Sharon Reggie Maynard, out of Washington, and she calls herself a Shaw woman mystic, and she was my mentor in some shamanic studies, and she taught me how to create sacred space and safety for yourself, especially when you're having a hard time. And so I imagine, and I do this if you've ever been to any of my meditations, you will have familiarity with what I'm about to say. But I imagine that there's a guardian circle around me, and that guardian circle can be made of ancestors, animals, gold, light, color, rainbows, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's whatever comes to you that feels safe and secure. And then I spiral down my body beyond my feet and up my body beyond my head to create a divine cocoon of safety. And then, and this was from another teacher of mine, bring my awareness to the dantian, the lower dantian, a little bit below the belly button, and start imagining that I'm creating light with my breath, focusing on the dantian, and then filling up, as you inhale, filling up the dantian and the body with light. As you exhale, filling up the divine cocoon with light, and calling in your guides and asking for their guidance and their support and safety. And that has been really helpful as well for me during this difficult time. So that's a skill I'll share, and back to you.
Okay. I'm going to go into the optimal breathing because this is something that I do every day, and I try and keep touching on it multiple times a day. And ideally, I'm just trying to get into my procedural memory. So every time a stressful moment occurs, I go into this optimal breathing to help me stay balanced and clear-minded. And what it is, so as a side note, if I can actually get it into my procedural memory, then I'm actually reprogramming my subconscious mind. Mm-hmm. A lot of people talk about reprogramming the subconscious. Well, this is one way of doing it. And it's as I'm simply, the easiest version is as I'm breathing in, I feel my ribs expanding underneath my armpits. My lungs are expanding outwards as I'm breathing in. And then lengthening the exhale. Lengthen, 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 lengthen. If I breathe this way, my breathing is going to slow down because I'm getting more oxygen per breath. And as I get more oxygen per breath, and I'm exhaling more CO2 per exhale, and I'm lengthening my exhale. So as I get more oxygen into my system and my lungs are working more effectively, my heart is able to slow down, and it calms down my nervous system. Mm-hmm. It's a technique that I can rely on, essentially. You know, which again, we're getting back to that feeling of empowerment. If I get good enough at this technique, I feel empowered because I feel like I can deal with whatever comes my way effectively. And I might not deal with everything perfectly, but it's going to be a lot better than if I hold my breath and shallow breathe and get all freaked out. Because that's culturally speaking, I've heard people argue that shallow breathing is an epidemic in our culture because we're so into our heads, so into and analyzing everything. And we're like, our minds are overwhelmed with data and information, and our bodies respond to that through shallow breathing. Just a disconnection between the body and the mind, but through the deepening of the breath and through trying to get into that place habitually, super empowering. And I combine the thank you practice with it. A lot of the time I'm breathing in, my ribs expand. And as I'm exhaling, slowly exhaling, really key, lengthen the exhale. In my mind, I drop in a few thank yous. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So that's, yeah.
I also want to add to that in my research on the vagus nerve, that is a suggested protocol.
Yeah.
To get the vagus nerve into its proper
working
state.
properly. That's a big deal. If the vagus nerve is off, we just don't feel good at all.
Yeah, and so how I direct the optimal breathing is you widen the rib cage on the inhale, and as you exhale, relax your shoulders and breathe out slowly. Because for people like me who have excessive tension and you breathe these deep inhale, expanding your ribs, then your shoulders are up by your ears and don't even notice it. So on your exhale, just drop those shoulders, relax those shoulders.
Yeah, and just try and keep the shoulders down as you're inhaling too, because that forces your lungs to go out.
Wide.
Yeah.
Widen the rib cage.
Yes.
Yes,
rather than raising the shoulders. I notice when I teach it, a lot of times people raise their shoulders. I'm like, no. Feel the expansion underneath your armpits.
Yeah.
And your back too, and your front, essentially. But the easiest thing to focus on, I think, is just feeling that expansion underneath your armpits, which is it feels good. And if we don't do it, guess what? The ribs are going to get stuck.
Yeah, it's true.
You don't move something, they eventually just
atrophy.
Yeah, and just
atrophy is painful.
Well, atrophy and just who knows, calcify, or I don't know.
If you get old enough. What happens is the life force is gone out of it and it's not using its elasticity.
Okay.
So the muscle cells or the ligaments and tendons will just lose their elasticity, lose their ability to hold you. So, if somebody has a major injury and they're bed rest for 6 months, they can't just get up and walk. There's this progressive strengthening that has to happen to get those muscle cells out of atrophy.
Yeah.
So when we don't use them on a regular basis, not because we're in bed rest, just because we are stuck in old patterns, that atrophy can still happen. It can happen in the diaphragm. It can happen in the intercostal muscles of the ribs. So, just
let's prevent
widen.
Let's strengthen those
on the
muscles.
Inhale, relax the shoulders on the exhale. Yeah. And I also noticed that the widening of the rib cage also helps you use the diaphragm more fully.
Okay.
So I used to always say, bring your inhale into your low back. But now I'm noticing that if I just say widen your rib cage, that was a lot of that. But by widening the rib cage, you do bring energy into the back of the diaphragm.
And another valuable mindfulness skill, and then it'll be your turn after this.
Okay.
I'm doing 2 in a row, sorry.
That's okay.
But it's being choosy with your mental diet. In this world, that's really important because we live in the information overload age where we have all this data pouring into our minds. And the way the mind operates is the data pours in and the mind processes the information. So we get stuck in this place of ingesting information, processing information, trying to figure out if it's true or not, or what, that's the processing part of it. But we get stuck in that cycle of just ingestion and processing, and there's no time for just quiet in our minds. And then psychologically speaking, that's a disaster because if we don't have any quiet in our minds get agitated and depressed. So just being choosy with the mental diet. My suggestion would be to just reduce screen time in general. Pay attention to what, vastly reduce the mental junk food.
Mm-hmm.
Figure out what is mental junk food. For me, I really try and I'm on a low media diet, low news diet, and pay attention to your mental diet. There's all this talk in our culture about physical diet and like that's the only thing, but mental diet perhaps is even more important than physical diet when it comes to overall health and well-being. And if my mental diet, I'll put it this way, if my mental diet is off, which it has been a lot of my life, but if it is off, it really makes it impossible for me to align my mind with the Tao or the God mind. So I'm out of harmony with the Tao or the God mind, and then I feel just kind of rotten, and and then I get desperate, and go into old habits, how I can like find relief.
I think that the mind, and we've talked about this so much, but it is so important. The mind is the foundation of everything, and your physical world, your physical health, and so I feel that honoring the mind and the mental diet and trying to train the mind to think more positively. And I get a lot of lashback.
Sure. That's fine.
From saying that, saying to hone the mind and think positive. But it is important because if you always see the negative, it is hopeless. It's really painful. And we want to be inventors and innovative. And to be innovative, there has to be hope. And to have hope, you need to find solutions and look into the positive and see the good, which is super hard sometimes.
Right.
But it is helpful.
Well, I would suggest, to mindfully assess a situation, you want to see the negative and the positive aspect of everything. But then if you want to create change, you focus on pouring energy into the positive end of it. Mm-hmm. It's, that's kind of the Buddhist way of things. And
exactly.
It's not, you're not ignoring the negative, but you're not focusing on the negative either. Because we want to conjure a better world. And our minds we're vastly more powerful than we understand when it comes to like manifesting things.
I want to say thank you to everyone for listening to Mindflow Radio Show. And we'll be back next month with more music and more mindful contemplations. And if you want to learn more about us, you can check us out on theheartmindcenter.org, the Heart Mind Center on YouTube, the Heart Mind Center on Facebook. We're pretty much everywhere. And we'd love to be in community with you, welcome you to our tribe. So have a lovely month working with your mind, training your mind. Take some of these skills, rewind, listen again. And we're all in this together and we can do this.
And life is a great adventure.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Bye-bye.